The first thing people misunderstand about war is that it rarely begins with fleets. It begins with something small. A sentence. A decision. A hand placed where it should not have been. For me, it began on a quiet station orbiting the blue dwarf star Haven 3, a place too insignificant to appear on most star maps. I had retired there after 22 years in the Terran Expeditionary Fleet, content to live as a mechanic, fixing cargo thrusters and patching hull fractures for merchants who never asked questions.
Peace suited me.
Until the day they touched my wife. Her name was Lyra. She wasn't human, though at first glance most people thought she was tall, pale-skinned, silver-haired, with eyes that shimmered faintly violet under bright light. She belonged to the Aran, a species once feared across 3 spiral sectors for their unmatched neural technology and their ability to synchronize minds during combat. Their empire had fallen long before I met her, shattered by internal rebellions and the rise of newer galactic coalitions. Lyra had been born into the remnants of that lost nobility, royal blood without a kingdom. We met 5 years earlier when I saved her transport from a pirate-boarding crew near the outer asteroid lanes. She had thanked me formally, the way nobles do, and then stayed. Not because she needed protection, but because she wanted a life where she could finally make her own decisions. We married quietly. No ceremony. No witnesses beyond the station registrar and a board sanitation drone. It was the happiest decision of my life. Haven Station wasn't wealthy, but it was stable until the Karth Dominion expanded its patrol zones. The Karth were not conquerors in the traditional sense. They didn't burn cities or annihilate species. They preferred control through pressure, tariffs, inspections, security oversight. Most stations complied. Resistance was expensive. Their patrol ship arrived without warning. I was in Dock Ring 3 when the announcement echoed through the corridors. Dominion inspection team arriving. All citizens prepare identification. I didn't worry. We had done nothing wrong. That assumption lasted exactly 14 minutes. Lyra had gone to the market ring to purchase thermal fabric for our quarters. I found her there, surrounded by 3 Dominion security officers, their dark armor reflecting the overhead lights. One of them was gripping her arm.
Not violently yet,
but tightly enough that she could not step away. "What's happening?" I asked, pushing through the small crowd. The officer holding her glanced at me. "Routine inspection." "She's already registered," I said. Another officer spoke, scanning a data pad. Aran lineage detected. High-tier genetic markers. Possible restricted bioclassification. Lyra's voice remained calm. "I am a civilian resident. My identification is valid." The first officer leaned closer to her, eyes narrowing. "Former royal strain. Valuable genetic profile. Dominion policy requires temporary evaluation." Evaluation. I stepped forward. "You can't just take someone for testing." He looked at me as if noticing me for the first time. "And you are?" "Her husband." Something changed in his expression. Not fear, not respect. Amusement. A human. He tightened his grip slightly. Lyra winced. That was the moment everything shifted. "Remove your hand," I said quietly. The officer smirked. "Careful, human. Dominion authority." I didn't shout. I didn't threaten. I simply repeated, "Remove your hand." For a second, the market ring went silent. He didn't let go. Instead, he squeezed harder. Lyra's eyes flickered, not with fear, but with a brief flash of restrained power I knew she constantly kept buried. She had promised me she would never use her abilities unless absolutely necessary. The Aran neural pulse, even weakened, could incapacitate an entire room. But she held back.
For me.
And that was their mistake. I moved faster than the officer expected. One motion, twist, pivot, pressure strike to the wrist joint. His armored gauntlet wasn't designed for grappling resistance. The grip released instantly. He stumbled backward, shocked more than hurt. The other two officers raised their pulse carbines. I didn't reach for a weapon. Instead, I stood between them and Lyra. "Inspection is over," I said. The first officer regained his balance, rage replacing amusement. "You just assaulted Dominion personnel." "No," I replied. "I stopped you from kidnapping my wife." The crowd had already begun to scatter. People on frontier stations understood escalation. They knew when violence was seconds away. The officer touched his comm unit, requesting enforcement backup. Civilian resistance. Lyra placed her hand gently on my shoulder. "Adrian, don't." I glanced back at her. She wasn't afraid. She was worried for them. I knew that look. If the Dominion troops pushed this further, she might be forced to defend herself. And if she did, the consequences wouldn't stop at this station. I lowered my voice. "We're leaving." We turned and walked away. No one stopped us. Not yet. That night, the official notice arrived. Dominion citation. Assault on security personnel. Penalty. Detainment for investigation. Standard intimidation. Most civilians paid the fine, issued a formal apology, and hoped the Dominion lost interest. I wasn't most civilians. I had seen what happened when powerful governments decided certain individuals were valuable specimens. I would not let Lyra disappear into a laboratory. "Maybe we should relocate," she suggested softly as we sat in our quarters. "They won't stop if we run," I said. "They'll mark you as a fugitive asset." She watched me carefully. "You're thinking of something." "I'm thinking," I replied, "that the Dominion just made a mistake they don't understand yet." The next morning, a second message arrived. Mandatory detention order. Report within 12 hours. Lyra looked at me. "What do we do?" I stood and opened the storage compartment beneath our sleeping platform. Inside lay a sealed black case I had not opened in years. She recognized it instantly. "Adrian, no." "I retired," I said. I didn't forget who I was. Inside the case rested my old command interface, military authorization codes, encrypted comm channels, and one thing the Dominion definitely did not expect to find on a forgotten station mechanic: access to the Terran Strategic Defense Network. Not the public channels. The deep channels. The ones reserved for emergency escalation. Lyra stepped closer. "You told me you left all of that behind." "I did," I said. "Until someone decided they could lay hands on you like property." Her expression softened. This could start something very big. I met her gaze. They already started it. The Dominion detention team arrived exactly on schedule. 6 armored officers stepped into Dock Ring 3, scanning for resistance. Their leader spoke loudly, clearly expecting compliance. "Adrian Hale, you are ordered to." A distant rumble cut him off. Not an explosion. Something deeper. The kind of vibration only capital-class engines produced. The officers looked upward instinctively, though the station ceiling showed only structural plating. Sensors across the docking ring began to flicker. Emergency traffic alarms activated. A station worker whispered, That's not local traffic." Lyra glanced at me. "What did you do?" "Not war," I said quietly. A reminder. Outside the station viewport, space darkened as massive silhouettes slid into formation. Sleek Terran defense cruisers, their hulls glowing faintly blue as weapon arrays powered online. A voice echoed through every public channel on the station. "This is Terran Strategic Fleet Command. Dominion personnel are ordered to stand down and withdraw from civilian detainment operations immediately." The Dominion officer stared at his comm unit, disbelief spreading across his face. This station is under Dominion jurisdiction. Another voice cut in, colder this time. Correction. This station is now under temporary Terran civilian protection status. The officer slowly turned toward me. You called a fleet over this? I met his gaze. You touched my wife. Minutes later, Dominion ships in nearby sectors began maneuvering toward Haven 3. Terran defense cruisers adjusted formation in response. Tactical networks across 3 systems lit up with alert traffic. Lyra stepped beside me at the viewport, watching the silent standoff forming in orbit. This could escalate into a sector conflict, she said. It won't, I replied. Not if they're smart. And if they aren't. I looked out at the growing fleet presence. Then the galaxy learned something important today. What? That some lines are smaller than governments think, but far more dangerous to cross. The standoff lasted 3 hours. No shots were fired. Finally, the Dominion command vessel transmitted an official withdrawal notice, citing administrative reassessment. Their patrol ships pulled back, leaving Terran cruisers holding silent watch around the station. The detention order against us disappeared from the network within minutes. Lyra exhaled slowly. It's over?
For now, I said. She turned to me.
You changed the balance of power in an entire sector because someone grabbed my arm. I shook my head gently.
No.
They changed it when they decided you weren't a person. She studied my face for a long moment, then smiled faintly. Remind me never to underestimate humans. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Remind the galaxy. Outside, the cruisers maintained their silent formation, temporary, but unmistakable. A message had been delivered. Not a declaration of war. A warning. Because sometimes the most terrifying force in the galaxy isn't an empire. It's the moment an ordinary man decides he has nothing left he's willing to let anyone take from him again.